Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the live session.
Yes. A lot of people always ask us to talk about composition in the wild. In fact, so we have a couple who are fabulous, fabulous photographers, down to earth people more than that, great artistic skills and great experience, especially from African side. They will be talking more about composing in the wild. You can see them in Instagram as well as in Facebook, and their handle we'll be sharing it over here. Compose in the wild. If you look for, you can see the details. Herbie will be sharing their Insta details, right?
Yeah, let me first take this.
Okay, so this is going to be a session completely focusing on wildlife and the composition part. And we're going to start now. And Hermi, are we going ahead with
Yeah, 1 second.
we are going to begin with a small introduction as usual about our journey as Paws, and then we will proceed with the guest. So it's a small organization started with a small dream to spread awareness and use photography as a medium. It started between me and Hermi, but then now it is a big collective dream. Right now we are kind of working with 200 plus photographers from across the world, and it's a collective collaboration of a group of dedicated nature lovers to bring humans closer to nature through the medium of photography and art. We have started this organization 6 years ago with our wildlife photography workshops to different locations. And then three other verticals has been added: the magazine, events, and education. Now, this live programs, webinars connecting people with different experts from across the world, and our um, live photography review, plus the exhibitions.
We have done 34 online magazines, one international wildlife festival, 60 plus international workshops and lectures, 23 photography exhibitions. We have a collective social media followers of 1.5 million plus. We have planted over 40,000 saplings across the world. We do have 200 plus international contributors who support us with their photographs, videos, and articles. We also produced and published 2 coffee table books, the first one being the 101 species of big cats from across the world, which is called the Big Cat Trails. And the second book is based on the species from Arabian Peninsula, and the book name is The Arabian Trails. This is our so far journey, and we would like to thank our trusted partners, Nikon, Snap Coaches, and Out of the Box. Now, we are ready to welcome Preeti and Prashant Chacko to join us. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Hermes. Hi, Nisha.
How are you?
Very, very good. How are you doing?
Good.
Thank you very much for that intro.
Glowing introduction.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we fully deserve that, but thank you very much.
We think we deserve,
You deserve it.
You deserve more than that, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think, we will straight away, we are giving you the whole screen. You can start with a small introduction about yourself, your journey, and you can proceed with the slides and explain your journey. I think that's the way we usually go.
Perfect.
Sure. Okay. So just a quick introduction. I'm Preeti.
I'm Prashant.
By profession, a German trainer, and Prashant's marketing executive, but our passion lies in photography, and whenever we get the time, we are in the wild.
However, we haven't been for almost 2 years now, so that's a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wouldn't like to be doing anything other than spending time in the wild with our cameras. That's our absolute complete passion for sure.
And talking about our photographic journey, this image actually is just that. This image is from way back in 2012, when our photographic journey really began. This is when two good friends of ours convinced us to go on this photographic tour to Zambia. And yeah, that's where everything kickstarted.
Yeah, we traveled with this South African photographer and tour operator called David Rogers, and he showed us this amazing picture of elephants next to a baobab tree. And that was what basically sparked it for us, saying, that you can actually create something so beautiful out of a camera. This is obviously a cheap copy of that, but it has...
But still of value to us.
Correct. And our Instagram handle is Composing the Wild, and therefore Nisha gave us the challenge of trying to live up to our name in a way. And therefore today is about compositions. And if I move forward, let me first start off by saying that today is not about rules, right? And least of all, the rule of thirds. If you want the rules, please go online. You'll find a lot of articles about the top 10 rules to follow or not to follow in photography. They are good. They're good to know. They're good to understand why they exist. But we genuinely believe that there's much more to it when you are in the wild. And today we'll try and bring some of that to life with some of the pictures that we want to share today. To start with, just a quote, and we found it interesting. So Elliot Erwitt is a very famous street photographer. And what he says is photography is observation. It has little to do with the things you see. It has everything to do with the way you see them. To give you an example of the photo we've put up here, Preeti and I always travel together. And invariably, we end up getting very different photographs of the same scene, although we both sit next to each other, have very similar equipment, and have everything similar. We end up getting different photos. This is an example. When I saw this lion, because I'm a cricket fan, I imagined the English cricketer W.G. Grace, because he had this big prominent beard and a slightly bald head, like this lion. And therefore, for me, while I was composing, I was pretty much bowling slow, medium pace to W.G. Grace, and he was waiting at the other end of the pitch to hit me out of the park. Yeah, and effectively, that's how I ended up composing it. Preeti composed the same line and the same scene totally differently.
Yeah.
And that for me is the best example of it has little to do with what you see. It's everything to do with how you see them. And moving forward, a photographer in Bombay who we spent some time with always used to tell us that every photo is a sum total of all the photographer's experiences. Right? Everything that you've lived through in your life comes to bearing in how you see the scene, and therefore how you frame the scene and photograph the scene and even process the scene. Between the two of us, we are not in the game to show people what we saw. We instead try to help you understand what we felt when we saw what we saw, or what we went through, say, emotionally when we saw what we saw. And given that, we would say that for us, composition, if you were to try and define it, it's how you choose elements and how you use those elements in order to tell the story or convey the emotion that you felt when you saw that scene. And that's how we kind of like to think of composition. And therefore, if you look at some of the elements, it literally is a vast array, right? It starts with light, it goes on to gestures, it goes on to shapes, patterns, color, or lack of it. As many of you know, we predominantly tend to do black and white. So the lack of color, in a way, point of view, perspective, environment, motion. A lot of these are the elements that probably are the tools a photographer has. And then how the photographer uses those tools with a subject is basically how the photo is composed. We'll try and make this hopefully slightly less obtuse with some of the examples that we show. And the first example we want to start off with is light. And if you think about it, light is the subject in photography, irrespective of what kind of photography you do, whether you're a wedding photographer or a wildlife photographer, light is your subject. The wedding photographer tells stories about people getting married with light, and the wildlife photographer tells stories about wildlife, right? So that's how we see light. And there's various kinds of light, front, back, side, soft, harsh, dappled, dramatic. Each one of them has a different role to play in the picture and can be used very cleverly by the photographer to convey very different things. And we'll try and give a few examples to see if we can make that idea clear.
So this is an example of dramatic light. This is in the Mara. Beautiful clouds forming, telling of the storm to come, and these rays. What caught us was, of course, these skies and the rays that were coming through the skies, and we needed something to juxtapose it to. And what struck me in this shot was this lone tree that seemed to stand still, calm, as if unaware of what is of the storm to come. And so we call this photo resolute. And the story, the hero here is, of course, the light, but the other elements here are the tree and the ground, and together they just formed this shot. Another shot here, the next shot, another example of beautiful rays. This time this was in Kanha. If I look back to our trip to Kanha, it was all about these beautiful rays of light coming through the sal forest. And through the whole trip, we were always looking for something to at the end of the light, as if it was like God's light streaming through the forest, looking to bless something. And in this shot, I found what it was. It was this herd of spotted deer, all grazing peacefully. And I prayed a little bit, hoping that one of them would just look up. And as if an answer to my prayer, this male spotted deer and that female just looked up and perfectly right into the rays. And so we sort of call this photo touched by divinity.
I wasn't praying, and therefore I didn't get the shot. You should see the photos I got. They were awful compared to this.
This one...
the screen hasn't moved. Sorry, is there a question? No. Okay, move on, carry on.
This one we call Shadow Hunter. So this is an example. Yeah, this is an example of harsh light shot in midday. If you would normally think you can't shoot anything there, or at least that is what we initially thought. This was again one of our shots from our earlier trips. So our photographic guide, Andrew Schumann, told us that, listen, we can actually meter off the sky and play with silhouettes, because there were this mother and cub sitting in the shade, and he said, let's just play with it. I mean, you can't hope for great shots. Let's just try. And before you knew it, the cheetah started to walk. It walked in between these trees in this clearing. And when I made it a silhouette, it suddenly became an amazing shot. So
in completely harsh light, and everyone had given up, right? Everyone had thought, listen, it's 12 noon, hot summer's day, there's no shots we can get. And yet, I think this is a pretty good outcome for that.
Yeah, so the lesson there is you can always use the light. Just learn to use the light and never put your camera down. You never know where's the next shot.
Correct. So we've spoken about what dramatic light, dappled light, harsh light, but sometimes it's difficult to get much more dramatic than when you have rim lighting, like rim lit, backlit shots. This is a leopard photographed at Sabi Sands. It's pitch dark at night, so the black is literally the color of the night, and there's light from a vehicle which is directly behind the leopard, and the light's kind of framing the leopard, and this again is without that little sliver of light, there's nothing in the frame, right? And therefore, again, an example of that light being the hero of this photograph.
In fact, if our vehicle headlights were off, and if you actually if the other vehicle switched off their lights,
correct,
there would be
you see nothing.
You see nothing.
You would think that there's nobody in the park, let alone a leopard there. The next one is an example of soft backlight. Let's give it a second to roll. Yeah. So soft backlight. This is in Thane Creek, between the Thane Vikhroli area in Mumbai. We are in a fisherman's boat at therefore really low level. It's a fisherman's canoe, and there's probably 10,000 flamingos, both greater and lesser flamingos in there. And it was one of our favorite activities and pastimes when we used to live in Mumbai. Yeah, going out pre-sunrise. And this is literally as the sun is rising. So you can see that the water is golden, the sky is golden, yet it isn't too bright to create shadows, etc. And we just meted off the bird, and we like to call this photograph Strawberry and Gold because of the two kind of strong colors that come out. But it's all made possible because of the golden light that we had that morning.
Before you go to the next session, we have a question. What time was that leopard picture taken?
Around 6:30 p.m. in winter. So 5:30 is roughly when sunset is in South Africa in winter. So this is an hour after sunset, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah. So pitch dark.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So that's some examples on using light in composition. Obviously, we can find many more. And I'm sure there are many examples you can find on the net as well. But hopefully you got a flavor of what we're trying to say about the importance of light.
Yeah.
The next thing that we want to move on to is gestures. And for us, probably this is probably our favorite part of it, because we believe that gestures, these little actions that are worth waiting hours for, literally make the difference between a dull, boring, also ran photograph and a magical one. Those of you interested in street photography would have come across this concept called decisive moment, spoken of by Henri Cartier-Bresson. And he defines a decisive moment as that one moment, if captured, which tells the whole story. And I'm sure all wildlife photographers would empathize with that, because we'd come across so many of these. And for us, we wouldn't think twice about waiting 3, 4, 5 hours just to wait for one of those glimpses.
It makes the wait worth it.
It makes the wait absolutely worth it. Yeah. So we'll try and share some of what we mean by gestures. I think start off. This is a photograph that we call Gotcha. For some reason, I was photographing only vertically that day, and I don't know why. And it worked out well for us. So anyone who spent time with lion cubs know that there is always magic when, after a bit of separation between the adult and the cub, they both meet. There's magic, right? And this is the scene here. There were a few cubs. This lioness had just finished hunting, and she'd come back towards the cubs. And we were ready, not expecting what will happen. Thankfully, I was vertical. And thankfully, this cub stood up on its hind legs, which is very rare for a cub to see. And, it's that very spontaneous smothering hug, right? A classical example of a gesture in this. And it's in a way a decisive moment, because the story now. It's a family of lions. That there's been a bit of separation. That you don't need to say much more or show much more to complete that story. The next one is an interesting one. It's very different from what we normally do. Firstly, because it's in color, but again, it's an interesting. This gray heron had spent the last 45 minutes hunting for fish in vain. It was just constantly going around pecking in the water, not getting anything at all. And we'd in fact almost given up, because we'd written it off as a poor hunter, when suddenly there was this flurry of bubbles, and froth in the water. And next thing you know, the bird stood out And for us, it was the almost startled expression on the fish that really did it for us. Because it was genuine surprise, because probably the fish also wrote off the bird as a poor hunter. And the expression, the light, that little drop of water, which is that connection between where the fish was and where the fish is now, makes this again a photo that we really enjoyed taking.
Speaking of gestures, this next one is a favorite of mine.
I took it though.
Yeah, he took it though. So the giraffe on the right was sitting on the ground and made for a nice shot, a soft backlight, and it was a nice scene. But what we realized is that the giraffe on the left was about to cross the road, and one thing we've realized when on the ground in the bush is that photographing animals doesn't mean you just get the shot. You also need to know animal behavior, anticipate animal behavior, and that is what goes to helping create that shot. You anticipate it, you wait for it, you hope for it, you pray for it, and if you're lucky, you get it. So in this particular case, this giraffe that crossed the road did come to greet the giraffe on the right, and this shot just was perfect for us to bring out the detail in the giraffe. We spot metered on the giraffe to blow out the background, because it
was backlit. Yeah,
it was
a
backlit
scene, soft backlight, not harsh backlight. But yeah, so kind of exposed for the giraffe and
made it a high key image.
And blow out the background to make this work.
The next image we like to call anticipation. Prashant's favorite shot this time, where I took it. This is where, again, knowing animal behavior helps. This was late afternoon. Anyone who knows lions know that they like to lie around and just generally chill. So you had the cubs on one side, chilling, doing their own thing, and you had the adults just flat out lying down and not bothered about anything. And our guide told us that if we just wait, the mother especially would give a signal, and that signal would be something that the cubs would wait for. And true enough, the signal came, and the cubs suddenly stopped whatever they were doing and all turned with their ears raised towards the mother. And what really got me in the shot was the symmetry in the shot, with with those little black spots behind the ears, all the ears standing at attention. And I just love the shot. But
and talking of light, this is a side lit shot, and side lighting has a great role to play in showing up fur and textures. So the lion cub right at the back has a good amount of texture in the skin, and that's because of the fact that the light is soft and coming from the left. Okay, moving on. The next one is slightly comic. I like to call it bovine rhapsody. So this buffalo was completely fed up of all the what is the bird called again?
Oxpeckers.
Oxpeckers, yes. Buffalo pecker is what is coming to my head. Okay, so the buffalo is completely fed up of the oxpecker, and the oxpecker just wasn't letting go of the buffalo. Yeah, so it would shake its head vigorously, one would fly off, and the buffalo would put his head down, and the oxpecker would come back again. So again, just that moment of one struggling and the other holding on, and to me, it looks like a scene from a Bollywood musical, actually, right? So hero and heroine doing a dance, but that's separate. Yeah. So the next kind of thing we want to talk about from a composition lens is perspective, and perspective used in the point of scale and depth, and in architecture and in art, for instance, perspective is the science of converting 3D images into 2D while making them appear 3D, right? So giving them conveying true scale, conveying true depth, conveying the true relations between all the elements in the photograph. So that's what we're trying to show here with perspective. The first photograph in this, clearly what you're trying to do here is show how big the tree is. I hope it's come onto your screen. Yeah, it's come now. So what you're trying to do here is show how massive this tree is. So we are in a boat. We are in Zambia, doing a river safari. And when you're at a river with an elevated ground, everything looks big, right? And we came across this very old, massive tree, and it looked really large. And we had just no way of showing how large it was in an effective manner. But thankfully, this big bull elephant walked into the frame, and it was the ultimate way of showing how massive the tree is, because this massive elephant looks so tiny, both height-wise and breadth-wise, compared to this tree, and we haven't even managed to get the full tree in the photo. Right? There's more tree that couldn't even fit into the frame. So it's an example of juxtaposing two things to show scale and size, as an example. The next one is on the same vein. Again, this was the Mara. This was the Mara. This was June, extremely cloudy. I was hell bent on finding a photograph that shows how massive the clouds were, because I'd never seen clouds like this. I'd seen this giraffe. I tried to photograph them from close up, but those photographs didn't work at all, because literally the head was in the clouds from the angle that I was shooting. And we gave up on it and we moved on. We were actually at a lion sighting, and I happened to turn, and I realized that suddenly, because we were now far away from the giraffe, their proportion was just right to tell the story. Clouds so massive that even the world's tallest animals look like complete dwarfs compared to the scale of the clouds.
Which is what this image
so we
is
call
called,
it
dwarfed.
Yeah, dwarfed. Yeah, so another key aspect of perspective is showing 3D scenes in 2D, right? Because photographs are 2D, life is 3D, the eye sees 3D. How do you make something look 3D? How do you tell a 3D story? And this is obviously a very simple example of that. Over to you.
This is a simple example, but it was one of my favorites when I shot it long time ago in one of our favorite parks, Shishloe Umfalozi Park. We were on a self-drive, and everyone talks of the long road ahead. And what struck me here was this mother and calf together looking down the road. And I wondered, what could this scene imply? And it almost felt to me that this calf was huddled next to the mother, one asking its mom, "What lies ahead, mom?"
Yeah.
And the mom, as if whispering to the calf, said, "Whatever lies ahead, we'll face it together."
Yeah, Kesara Sara.
Kesara Sara. This one was, the next shot was shot in the Mara.
It's not loaded yet. Just give it a second. Yeah.
Migration time, filled with wildebeest as far as the eye can see. And how do we capture that? That was the question we had. We want to try and capture that shot. And in this particular scene, we think we did justice to that, where we want to show you how many wildebeest there are, and still it seems to go on and on and on. And this is juxtaposed with how wide and vast the Mara is. What made the scene for us, of course, were these rays that we'd like to call God's rays, just coming through the sky. And yeah, that is what this shot is about.
Perfect. The next thing we'd like to talk about composition-wise is frames and patterns. Frames within frames, using verticals, using horizontals, using diagonals, using curves, symmetry, repetition, etc. Again, we've put a couple of examples here to just show how we can use some of these tools as well to compose photos better. This is a photograph from Pench.
Yeah.
Pench in Madhya Pradesh. And it's the strong repeated trees as well as the repeated verticals, because verticals typically in design language, verticals is supposed to stand for strength and solidity. And the fact that it's also repeated like this, we almost feel like the langur is in prison. But that's a different point. Okay, moving on to the next one. It's about repetition and patterns and mirror images.
Yeah,
and it's one of Preeti's best shots.
Okay, thanks. This one, well, it's a cheetah on a termite mound, and cheetah on termite mounds generally make for good pattern shots, I think, because they just get into such amazing poses. And in this particular case, I was going for a mirror image where they were looking in different directions. But just as I was composing the shot, the cheetah in front suddenly turned its head in the same direction as its brother at the back. And suddenly this shot took on another aspect altogether and became magical.
Yeah, another case of...
Is this also the spot metering you have used?
Yes, the same thing. We metered for the cat and overexposed.
Okay.
Yeah, so metered for the cat and overexposed. That's how we got the thing. Yeah, because with spot metering on a cheetah, it's dodgy because the cheetah has such contrast. If your spot moves slightly off, it could be on the black spot or on the skin, on the orange skin, and you could get very different meter readings. So with cheetahs and leopards, we try not to do spot metering because a 1 centimeter change can have a very different exposure result.
Yeah. That plus also in post production, I did exaggerate the blowout.
Okay.
Okay, talking of frames, once the screen loads. Yeah, okay, so talking of frames, this is an example of using an animal as a frame within a frame. In this case, it's a mother elephant sheltering a baby elephant from the rain. So it's a frame, it's a shelter, and there is a larger story to it as well, right? It's the mother protecting the baby. And from the same herd, but a different composition and a different kind of image. It's the baby elephant with the rest of the herd. And again, the idea is the same, to show the strength of the herd with all the strong vertical lines. There's a repetition of pattern, lots of these vertical columns, trunks and legs, right? And you're still conveying the same impression of protection, right? Because vertical is all about strength, and we show the calf being almost cocooned by the herd of elephants. The next image is from Namibia. It's from Etosha, and yeah, you can classify it in many ways. There is framing in here. There is
repetition.
There's repetition in here because you have this one lone zebra surrounded by hundreds of springbok, right? And just a repeated pattern of their horns, their antlers, and then there's one zebra, and we managed to focus on it, and therefore the antelope that are closer to us are out of focus, and the ones in the far distance are also out of focus. And effectively, it's kind of a frame surrounding it, and it helps tell the story about daring to be different in a way.
Our final point about composition is, I would say, one of our most important points: isolation. It is a point that was a favorite
drilled
into our head by one of our influential photography teachers, Emil von Maltitz. He used to keep saying that what you choose to leave out of the frame is as important, if not more important, than what you keep. For example, here in this shot of mine, yeah. Just wait for the shot. Yeah, there it is. Shot in Pench, where I think instead of going after tigers, I went after langurs that whole trip, because this was just so it was about this cub. What I saw in this particular frame was how this cute little thing was peeking out of its mother's lap and was giving such an innocent look. So I wanted to capture the innocence in this shot, and to do so, I focused on it, and I could have gone full out and shown you the full mother, but then I think it would have taken away from the story. But I needed to convey to you that it is embraced in its mother's arms, and to do so, I kept just enough of the mother to let you know that, and show you that it is there, but focus on the cub. And yeah,
I think if the mother's face was there, it would have been a distraction. Yeah, it would have been a distraction, and you couldn't have blown the baby up as much as well. So it would have been.
And also, I'm talking about frames. This is the natural frame. The cub is framed by its mother's arms and legs, I would say.
Yeah.
Beautiful one.
And was that image got some recognition or award or something?
So David Yarrow ran this Instagram competition.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, he ran an Instagram competition to give out his new book, and we sent this, and he chose this as the winner.
That was a really amazing day.
And a really amazing book that he sent. It's so big we can't even open it. It's heavier than our dining table. But
it's an amazing book.
Yeah,
really amazing. So the next shot, continuing on the topic of isolation, I also, in this particular scene, what struck me was the roller, and they are just such beautiful, beautiful birds, and I'm always trying to capture them in a great scene. And this one, to me, was different because it was on a zebra, and what struck me was this magical splash of color juxtaposed by this monochromatic striped animal. So the story here is about the color juxtaposed with the black and white stripes. Again, to do that, I didn't therefore focus on the zebra. I cut out enough of the zebra to show you that it is there, the roller is on it, and you can see from the blur in the background as well that this is a herd of zebra. And in post-production, I did push out the colors and make the background black and white. But this is again about isolation, about
showing enough to tell the story.
Just enough to convey what you want to convey.
Yeah, rather than showing everything in the scene. Okay, and that brings us to the last image that we want to share, and then we'll be happy to take any questions if there are. This is we wanted to take an alternate view of the migration, because all the fantastic migration photographs that we tend to see are stories of the herd, the group, the thousands, right? The strife of the thousands. And we were wondering, is there any way we can tell the story of the individual? Because surely each individual goes through as much pain as is shown, in the group. And one day we were waiting by the river. There's this huge buildup happening. It's extremely hot, as you can notice from the light as well. Extremely hot, sunny day. Waiting, nothing's happening. This herd is refusing to cross. And both of us started hunting for, is there any one animal that stands out in the crowd that we can kind of do something interesting with? And I came across this one. And I think just by seeing it, and just by seeing almost that very human-like fear in the eye, it for us tells a story about the migration, right? Because this is now an animal that's about to jump in headlong into a river full of crocodiles, right? It's got lions and leopards and cheetahs waiting on both sides of the river, right? Probably its individual probability of success is low, but it's the right thing for the herd to do, and therefore it has to do it. And in a way, for us, this photo kind of just zooms into that individual story and tells about the migration in a different way. Yeah, so that's the photographs that we wanted to share, thank you with a photograph from the Middle East. Yeah.
That was a spectacular session.
Yeah.
So much to learn. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To share those wonderful moments.
And wonderful tips and the way you see things. Definitely awesome.
Thanks.
Definitely.
No, we've been really fortunate to travel with phenomenal photographers, and I think if you put it down, that is the key, right? Right from the 2012 story, we realized that when you travel with a pro, and I've heard there are various kinds of pros, and some don't like to teach and some like to teach. But if you travel with a pro who's willing to share, your learning curve shoots up so dramatically, because they do it day in, day out, right? It's their profession, right? They can tell you things in an hour or two that would take you a few years to learn otherwise. So I think that's what really helped us.
That's definitely
photographic tours, definitely for for an upcoming, for any photography you learn, at least 1 or 2 such trips I think is worth.
It's more expensive to do it with a pro than to go on your own, but we found it's always worth it from a learning perspective, because you always come back with a new point of view, a new skill, a new way of looking at it.
It's true.
So we have a question from Sumit. Any suggestion for a book to know animal behavior?
We were the wrong people to ask that. We have not read any book.
This is all from guides that we've been with. And what we've generally found is when we did go off on our own, the Mara guides, they really know their stuff. So even if it's not a photography guide, if you get a good ranger, I would say so while we cannot give you any advice on the book, I would say what is important is to get a guide who knows.
A guide who's passionate about wildlife, right? Sometimes you get guides who are just doing it as a job, right? I mean, you'll save some money, but you lose out on the experience, right? And especially in the Southern African parks, I think in the Southern African parks you have they almost treat it as an interpretative trip. It's not just photography; it's interpretation, right? Understanding why animals do what they do. I think it's about spending time there and observing.
I think that is what it is. It's more rather than books. It's all about being there and experience it. It's that's the way to go for it.
That's true.
Another question from Vivek Jindal. What inspires you to take a pic between color and monochrome for a captured moment?
Okay, so we are slightly controversial, but I think we genuinely believe that most photos are best in black and white. But okay, so anyway, when you photograph the scene, it's a color scene, right? Because the camera captures all the colors, and then for us, especially if there is good contrast, if there's good contrast, if the scene is worthy of making a high key or a low key kind of scene, high key meaning lots of strong whites like the cheetah, low key meaning lots of dark blacks like the leopard silhouette thing. Or if there are repeated patterns, right? Lots of stripes, lots of patterns, lots of repeated things, then it's a natural black and white. Because then you strip away the color, you strip away the distraction of color, and you make the eye see the patterns. That's the way we see it. I also have this theory that fundamentally photographs are meant to evoke an emotion. And when you strip away color because you're making it artificial, because in real life there is no black and white, because you're making it artificial, you're forcing the brain almost to analyze it a little bit more. Right, and that just engages the brain a little bit more, and I think therefore you get a better emotional connect. Is a personal theory that I have. I don't know if it's true or not. However, scenes like the sunset with the oryx, etc., the hero
Won't
there is
work.
the sun. The hero there is the sun, and therefore, if you don't show the sun in color, it'll look like a white circle, and there's no story there, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're doing like great sunset shots with an orange sky, the story is the orange in the sky, and the black and white there just wastes the story. So therefore, for us, 80%, 90% of photos end up being black and white, and select few end up being color.
I think over time as well, you realize what are the black and white shots. That's what we've come to realize as well. As we shoot, we are now thinking more in black and white than color.
In fact, now on my cameras, my image preview I set on black and white, to be honest. I even see my image previews in black and white. So before you get a quick sense if the composition is working. Otherwise, the color might dazzle you.
Yeah.
When you see the camera in the field, the color might dazzle you, right? And the composition may not work. Whereas I set my image kind of preview screen on black and white, showing you that, black and white is how we start in a way.
One question from Sumit De. In this secluded zebra story, can you mention how you focused here?
The zebra surrounded by the antelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a 200-400 f4 Nikon lens. So put it on f4, the widest thing possible, stood up in the vehicle so that I could go over the springbok, and focused over all of them onto the zebra. Because of the depth of field naturally produced by that, the antelope that were closer to us went out of focus, and the zebra was sharp.
Okay. Chris Lorgan is saying your pictures are so awesome and strong. Thank you. And he also has a question. What's your favorite lens when shooting wildlife?
The 200-400 is amazing, but
200-400 is Nikon 200-400.
Yeah, but
we don't know anything else. Yeah,
so
we can't give you any advice on any other gear, unfortunately.
No.
I personally love the 500 f4. I just absolutely love it. It is, and I don't find it too heavy to hold on occasion for short bursts. I absolutely love it.
So his combo is, but another combo that's amazing is the D5 with the 7200.
Yeah, 7200 is also really good, especially if you want to go slightly wide. A lot of the wider shots we showed you today are all 7200 shots.
Okay.
Because you just want to go slightly wide. It's stack sharp, f2.8, so even good for low light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A direct question to the guest. Which is more important in photography, frame, moment, or any other? Please don't say all of the above.
I'll go first. Okay. You may have a different view. That's fine. Moment. I would say moment.
Okay.
I would say moment because that a moment may not ever happen again. And therefore, capturing that moment, I would say, is the first prize.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even go by saying, even if it means it's, say, dusk and really dark and you have to push your ISO up to unholy levels, it's worth it because the choice is simple, right? Low ISO and no photo versus high ISO and some photo. And I'd clearly choose the second one any day. Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, moment clearly first. Also, I think for me, it's very important not to be in the field, not to be struggling with settings, not to be trying to remember rules of composition, etc. For me, that is the work, that is homework, that is pre-work you need to do before you enter the field. That's the pre-work you do between sightings. In the sighting, I think the most important thing is to literally be in the moment, absorb all that's happening. Otherwise, if you're busy mucking around with, which lens do I take, what's my shutter, what's my ISO, if you're doing all of those things, you're worrying about your equipment and not absorbing the scene, right?
Yeah, unless the moments.
Unless you let the scene make an impact on you, how will you make an emotional photograph?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in that you've got to be in the moment completely. as a photographer, and therefore for me, moment is the most important thing.
I would say moment as well. I am an emotional photographer in that certain scene has to move me in some way, like that baby playing, or even this, for instance, the cat or the spotted deer and those God's rays. For me, if I talk about, if you would have noticed, if I talk about an image, it's about what I felt while I shot that image. So in a way, it is the same answer, moment. It is something that moves you at that point because something magical is happening. And so
it may never happen again.
It may never happen
in front
again.
of you, at least. Yeah.
Which is why sometimes the shots that we get are also different, because for him that moment might be something else. For me, that moment might be something else.
Yeah. And with framing, you always have cropping as an option, right? You can always come back and crop.
Yes.
And unless you want to print out big billboards, right? Even a cropped photo makes for decent prints if printing is your objective. So cropping is always a tool that you have. Of course, you can't cut an animal out and then reproduce it. That's cheating in a way. But cropping is always a tool that you have, and therefore even the frame is slightly off. After the moment, you can still do something with it. Miss the moment, and you only have a frame.
Yeah.
True.
Now we have another question, Sergio Adrian. How much does wildlife photography help to preserve wild animals? What kind of stories should we tell in these beautiful photographs?
So, speaking about moments, you are capturing all these moments. You want to pass on this, what you felt, what you feel when you see this wildlife to others through your images. And they need to realize that if without wildlife, there are no such photos going to be there to take in the future. So one of the initiatives, amazing initiatives that is happening right now,
Prints for Wild,
during COVID, to help protect wildlife when tourism is down. You need money coming in, because there are amazing people, rangers on the ground, looking after this wildlife, protecting wildlife, because unfortunately they are in danger. They are in danger by forces around. And so this amazing initiative by Lady Venom and Piaz, Prints for Wildlife, where over the world, 100+ photographers have donated their image to raise funds for wildlife. So through your
$500,000 raised, yeah. So
through images, you are helping conservation.
And also, so I personally think that, I think a lot of the emotions that wildlife shows are very human, right? Humans can easily empathize with, let's say, a mother cub photograph, right? A human can easily understand it, right? If there's death, you can understand it. So a lot of these emotions are very human-like. And I personally think that appreciation of beauty is universal. And therefore, as photographers, if we can really showcase how amazingly beautiful and how amazingly emotional wildlife and nature can be, I think it will change people, because emotions are universal, right? So everyone in the world cried when Titanic was released, or at least those who liked the movies, right? Pretty much all over the world. So emotions are universal, is what I firmly believe. And as photographers, if we can tell, bring out their emotion through our photographs, stop just documenting what you saw, but documenting what you felt, I think it'll move enough people to change behavior.
Yeah, that definitely connect people to nature.
Yeah.
We have one more question from Parag, but which photographer would you recommend going with?
Well, there are two on the screen right now, other than that.
Nisha and her.
Yes.
Thank you.
There are two on the screen right now. I'll tell you who we've gone with, okay? And they're all amazing. So we've gone with David Rogers, who does fantastically curated safaris across Africa. We've gone with Andrew Schumann, who taught us many things, but primarily taught us, metering, taught us silhouettes. I think that's what he really taught us really well. Brendan Kramer.
Yeah, so to just as a background, all these guys are South Africans because we lived there from 2010 to 2015. We lived there, so most of the photographers that we learnt under, especially Emil von Maltese, he's the one who started it off, kickstarted it off, and we went on. He's an amazing landscape photographer. So all these guys are South Africans, and what we sort of realized is, well, whoever we went with Brendan Kramer. We went with
who's amazing at flash photography, among other things.
We went
Brendan
with
Jennings.
Brendan Jennings. We went. So all these are South Africans. What we generally found is that South African photographers are really good.
Wim Vandenhever, we went Wim as well. No, they're very good photographers, and they're very, very happy to teach. There's no trade secrets in a way, right? They're very happy to kind of show you every setting.
Show you the tricks, show you the...
show you every setting, stop taking photographs and really kind of help you through your scene kind of thing. So we can only speak for those we've been with, and all of them have been spectacular. So...
Yeah. So Kalika Shah is asking about your equipment kit.
Okay, so
we're Nikon.
We're Nikon. Typically we have like an ultra zoom, like a 500 with us and a 70-200 with us, so that and we keep it on separate bodies so that if something changes quickly, we're not scrambling to change lenses and either missing the shot or just getting a lot of dust in the sensor.
Yeah.
We've off late and in our last few trips, we've also started carrying an ultra wide.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just have an elephant coming and standing next to the vehicle and
doesn't fit in the frame.
We are tired of the elephant eye and elephant kind of tail hair shots because you can't get anything else when they're so close. Mm-hmm. But a 500, like a high zoom, like a 200-400 or a 400 or a 500 and a 70-200 for us are the essential. Because then you have a wide variety of framing possible.
Okay, and can you kindly describe the procedure to achieve rim light producing an outline of the whole body, even in daylight?
In daylight.
Even in daylight.
Yeah.
That would, you wouldn't get a completely dark image.
Yeah, because you need a small yet powerful source of light. Because if it's a large source of light, the whole scene gets lit. Yeah. The rim light tends to work. And Nisha, Hermes, please jump in as well, because your technical knowledge is definitely better than ours. But as far as I'm concerned, in a bright day, it's going to be very, very difficult to do it in camera.
Yeah. Even I believe that.
In camera.
In camera, very difficult. Yeah.
You end up in doing a bit more into what do you call it? Post processing. Yeah, but when you see if there is any possibility to get some backlight, then you have some chances, but then it is going to be depending a lot on post production.
Okay, so he's not asking for pitch dark background. So then it's classic backlighting. Yeah. It's classic backlighting. You meter for the subject.
Meter for the subject, yeah.
Correct. You meter for the subject, and hopefully the subject has kind of hair, because that hair is what gives you that white line around it. Like in the giraffe shot that we showed, there's kind of 1 inch, 2 inch long hair, which gives you that nice kind of white halo around it. That gives you that rim, but the subject is also lit, so the subject is not dark.
So you're allowing for the background to be blown out.
Yeah.
You're getting the details in your subject. So that is a bird photography, for instance. That's what many do. You could try that for birds as well.
Yeah, but Nisha, Hermes, if you have any other techniques, we'll also be happy to learn.
Yeah, I think whatever you suggested, that is the best method to capture this.
Especially for rim, if you're referring, because for rim you will definitely need a darker background. At the same time, you need some kind of light source from the back side. I mean, from the back of the subject too. So to get the outline. And if it is going to be completely a daylight scene, then definitely that's the only way to go for it. Yeah, but if your plan is to soften the background, yes, then there is still possibility. But if you're planning to get the whole thing into a dark scene and get only the outline, then you really need to play around.
Yeah. I have one more question, but I didn't understand the question actually. It's from Yashwant Mahendran. I assume it gets more and more different as you go deep into the denser forest, trying to shoot habitat shots where you can't carry all the gear. Can you suggest me one lens that can serve the purpose?
So, for instance, in India, what we found is that 70-200 was a good lens to have. And we haven't really gone deeper than that.
Yeah, or I don't know, the lens you showed us that day, right, Nisha, which was the 200 400 with the converter angle.
180 400.
180 400. I was about to say that.
Yeah.
180 400 definitely gives a great output, and that's like it gives you the quality of a prime lens. But then it costs you a pretty good sum. So if you don't have the budget for that, what you can opt is 80 400. It's again giving you a range from 80 to 400. Again, then 70 200. 70 200 is definitely an all-time favorite lens for us. But then these are the three options if you are thinking about going inside. If you don't want to carry something heavy at the same time, you want to get a good range, then go for 80 400. If you are not thinking much about the range part, then you can go for 70 200 because it have a 2.8 factor, so that the light can be,
when you go to the dense forest, it helps a lot.
Yeah. And if you are thinking about managing light as well as what do you call length, then you can, if your budget is limited, go for 80 400. If you can afford, then go for 180 400, because 180 400 got an inbuilt converter which you can switch on and get 560 as well. So it's all about what is your output, what is the output you are looking for, what is your budget. So these are the options.
Yeah. And he also asked,
well, it's a good lens.
It is.
Yeah. He also asked, can you explain a bit more about the comfort circle? How do you achieve it?
Sorry?
Can you explain a bit more about the comfort circle?
Of an animal.
Even I didn't. Maybe of an animal, I think.
I think it is about the animal, because for them to accept you in your presence in their world, sometimes it takes a bit of while. It's all about waiting there patiently, so that they are not afraid of your presence. They don't act weirdly in your
I think
presence.
he's talking about that human animal comfort zone. You're bringing in the animal in that comfort zone. You're making them. I think that's what he's.
I think that is something which we usually explain. We ask people not to go fast into, not to go get, rush into a scene. Go step by step, slow and steady.
Approach the subject slowly.
I think there's also the need to be responsible.
Yes.
So there's a need to be responsible, and I think we'll give a story. When we were in the Mara once, and there was this serval and baby. So there was a baby in the serval's mouth, and the serval was carrying this baby through the grass, and that scene was absolute chaos.
Absolute chaos.
There were at least 15, 16 vehicles in there, and they were completely terrorizing that mother and baby, because they were constantly circling around. Everyone was trying to get their best shot, etc., etc. And our guide told us, I'm really worried, because in this anxiety of the moment, the mother could just drop the baby in the rush
and run for it.
And then she might just completely lose the baby, because some photographers wanted a dream shot.
And
in
chasing it, what I found also was that it would disappear into the grass for a minute or two, and in that frenzy to follow it, the one of the vehicles could even run over them.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff, I think, slightly different answer to the question you asked, but it's the kind of thing photographers should not do. Because we are the ones encroaching.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it's only a photograph, right? So.
Correct.
And talking about comfort, what we found is, like we said, we are willing to wait hours on end for a particular scene to unfold. And we've had cases where we've waited, just sat there watching an animal just lazing around. We've had other vehicles come, look at it, chit chat, and move away. And the animal would be a little disturbed, go back, and raise his head up and then go back to sleep. Whereas we waited and waited. And then after a point, I guess people get tired of seeing an animal lying around doing nothing. And it's when they left, we are still there. This animal has, I guess, by that time is used to our
they
vehicle.
think we're a rock or a tree or something by then.
And then suddenly something happens. And you've just made up for all that time you waited there. So you let it get comfortable with your presence, and you've been rewarded by a moment that you wanted to capture all along.
That's very true, Preeti, because in a place like Mara or most of the wildlife tourism places, what you see is a lot of vehicle will be kind of coming in. They may wait for 3-4 minutes, and we have seen situations where people throwing water bottle on sleeping cheetahs and lions to make them up. And our guides used to go mad, and there are occasions where we complain to the wardens that this is what people are doing and you need to take them out of the park. I mean, we have ethics. I forget about ethics. I don't think they even understand.
As Prashant said, it's about like responsibility, responsible photography.
It sounds like the people behave as if they're coming for some midnight parties or something like that. They scream and they call names, and these are things which whenever we do something, we always suggest people, these are the rules we definitely need to follow. So to get their acceptance in their world, at least for some time, being quiet and being patient is definitely a must.
Yeah. And one last question, I think. In your minimal pic of the group of giraffe, what was your lens?
Sorry?
That the group of giraffe, I think the
horizon.
Giraffes on the horizon.
I think it was a 7200, but I can tell you. I think it was a 7200.
Okay.
But I can just post a reply on YouTube.
Yeah, sure.
The second one.
Sure. Yeah, so these are the questions we have.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that was it. So thank you once again, Preeti and Prashant, and fabulous.
Thanks for your time, your knowledge sharing, everything. Fabulous images.
Yeah, absolutely our pleasure. And thank you very much for starting this initiative. Yeah, it's truly great.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to the next, your next guests, whoever they may be.
Yeah.
Who is coming next, Hermi, for the
next is
Jaiprakash Bhojan on next Saturday. Yeah. So this is going to be not his usual type of explanation. I think he's going to talk more about his journey as a photographer and a conservationist. So you will be able to see his images. You will be able to go with his journey, how he began this and how he ended up in being a conservationist, because he's doing a lot in line with conservation and photography these days. So I think that's going to be another great opportunity to share a fabulous journey. All right.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you again.
See you again. So that was a spectacular journey, spectacular images, and what a way to explain things. I mean, there are great photographers at times which but they struggle with the words. Here it was a beautiful combination of explaining things, and there was no secrets, and they were so happy to
Explaining in
share.
simple words.
Yes, put things in no hyphen language or anything as such. It was very straightforward, very it was coming from the heart, I must say. They were speaking their experience. That's what made it more more enjoyable.
The way they explained about each photograph, we could understand that emotions in their eyes.
And they're there.
Yeah, so let's end the session. We'll see you on
What is on next Wednesday? I just wanted to
Wednesday. We are yet to confirm.
Okay. There is two possibility. One is going to be a story from.
We'll discuss that once we confirm that.
Get a confirmation. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Fine. But then Saturday is going to be definitely Jayaprakash Bhojan. And there is two more things I just want to remind you. If you have great pictures of hornbills, please do send it across to us.
Indian Great Hornbill.
Indian Great Hornbill. You can either send it to us to our email ID, Paws Images, PAWS Images @gmail.com. Otherwise, you can register in our website. Register, login, click on contribute. You get a form. You have an option to upload your images. The next edition of the magazine is going to focus on Great Indian Hornbill. So please do that. The second thing is on coming 30th, we have our second group exhibition. The theme is going to be reflection. So if you have good images from the nature on reflection, please do share it to us. You can send the images to the same email ID, which is
or upload in the website.
So these are the options. And if you want to be a part of our live reviews, hear me, that email ID, I always forget it. For the
review.
Postrace.review. If you would like to
at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Sorry, postrace.review@gmail.com. What we need from your side is a set of 10 images. Share it with us. Our team will check it and we will get back to you. Then you can come online with us and you can share your experience and we share our views together. It's all about learning, all about spreading awareness, all about taking care of nature, whatever is left.
And we are getting a lot of messages, like people talking about this new initiative, saying that it's a very spectacular and inspiring sessions that we are conducting. So, and they are thanking us for bringing in photographers like Preeti Prashant and like those well-known photographers who share their knowledge. So it's actually like we are doing our responsibility towards the upcoming photographers. And yes,
in fact, we are going to come up with more, we have a section called Cups Corner, which is going to be below 16 years old. So we are talking to a couple of photographers from across the world once again. So one of these sessions in every month is going to be under 16. So if you are under 16, if you think your images are great, if you would like to come on live with us to share your experience, do contact us. Or if you know somebody who is under 16, who is doing good in conservation photography or art, do let us know so that we can give them an opportunity to share their views and their work to the world.
And one more thing, if you guys want some photographer to be to share their knowledge with you, to learn from any photographers that you guys are looking forward, please submit your suggestions. We will try to bring them in. And if any of you want to share your experience or anything, please send us an email. We'll also review on that and we'll get back to you.
Send us your email. This is the way. If you would like to be with us, then you can send us your website or any platform where we can see your work.
Basically, their portfolio.
Yeah, your portfolio. Then you can do the session with us. One session can be for you. That's definitely on. On that note, Hermi, I got a message from somebody today to invite Thomas for this session. I said, Thomas usually don't, I haven't seen him doing any webinar. We can definitely contact him and ask him, but it's completely up to him. We will give it a shot, but I haven't seen him coming on live and doing a session. So we will do that. It depends on him.
Okay.
Okay. On that note,
let's say,
take care.
In the reflection images, can I submit mobile macros? Of course, you can.
Yeah, send it across, and we have a selection process.
We'll review it.
So we will see.
Okay, then. Bye, guys. See you on
Take care.
Wednesday.
Stay safe, and see you on Wednesday. Bye.